Robshaw and Ford were co-captains for England against Samoa. Credit Getty Images. In the build-up to England's 4,814 win over Samoa, co-captain for the test match, Chris Robshaw spoke of how the captaincy can be perceived from the outside as involving giving Churchillian orations, but that the reality is very different. That in reality leadership is about being there for one's teammates, showing how one cares. Robshaw's perspective shows a modern and practical take on the captaincy. If we are to look beyond the traditional image of the captain as a totemic character barking encouragement, Eddie Jones' decision to opt for a dual captaincy shared by Robshaw and George Ford seemed both a novel yet logical proposition. When you take both players' dispositions, personalities and positions into account, it makes sense. There has often been the argument not encumber the fly half with the captaincy, so on paper the experiment made sense for Ford. As the architect of the backed play, he is the de facto leader there, so why not give him the title? As with Robshaw, considering the horrors and humiliation of home World Cup group stage elimination ended his last stint at the England captaincy, it again makes sense not to load the one player with all the responsibility. Robshaw's resilience and selfless style of play combined with Ford's vision and composure seems like the dream combination for a captain. Robshaw was busy doing the dirty work. Credit AFP. When it came to the co-captains' playing performances, it is difficult to argue that either were unencumbered, particularly in the first half. Despite an overall man-of-the-match performance, Ford's first 40 at times was far from being vintage, as his kicking both from hand and from tee was not at its clinical best. He grew into the game, shepherding Alex Lozowski well and made some sumptuous kicks, building a platform for colleagues to score in the second half. You can't ask more from a captain than to lead by example and show resilience. Back on the open side, Robshaw was busy in doing the dirty work well around the breakdowns, but his attention seemed somewhat lapsed when in the first half he was intercepted by the Samoans. Yet being a captain is more than the individual's performance. If being a good captain is, as Robshaw commented, all about those around you, the co-captains succeeded. Ford was man of the match. Credit P.A. Lozowski's opening try and his crisp passing in his 56 minutes on the field were testimony both to having a good fly half inside him and good leadership. The same could be said for Charlie Ewels, who fudged the kickoff that led to the Samoan try but then atoned with a try of his own. That showed resilience and that he was in the encouraging and caring environment that Robshaw had said he was striving for. One could view the on-field mechanics of the co-captaincy functioning well when, after Elliot Daly's first try, Ford was busy lining up a tricky conversion which he neatly kicked, while Robshaw spoke to the rest of the team in the huddle. England then enjoyed a smart and dominant spell of play. Less than 10 minutes later, England had scored again, this time through Henry Slade. England player ratings versus Samoa. As more replacements took to the field, the game became more disjointed, as did the influence of the co-captains. This could, perhaps, partly be explained by the introduction of usual and solo captain Dylan Hartley came on. In the closing minutes, Ford's cool steadied the backs. Robshaw may not have been in the heat of the action for the build-up for the final try of the match via Samesa Row Kodagunis, but was vocal towards teammates in the phases building up to. The co-captaincy experiment was not perfect, but it was an intriguing experiment in terms of seeing England's on-field demeanor, particularly around mindset, resilience and settling the newer caps. Considering Ford's performance and Robshaw's grit, and the growth of younger players, it is certainly an experiment worth trying again. Mike Brown's first try, scored so early on, set the tone for the match and set the tempo in England's favour, even if it did slow down at times. Most influential player George Ford led by example in his co-captain capacity, his cool and composure allowing those outside him, such as Lozowski, Slade and Daly, to shine. Also was the architect of defensive efforts when the Samoans pushed themselves back into the game. Crowd rating 610. The ease with which England swept into the lead ensured this was always going to be a fun day out rather than a particularly engaging encounter. Notably, there were a few home cheers when Samoa scored their late consolation try. The use of fans' phone lights created an intimate feel in the Twickenham vastness. Referee rating Andrew Bray 710. An overall consistent performance in a game that lacked much controversy. Match rating 610. Far from a vintage fixture, but this game would have left the viewer with lots to think about, from Lozowski and Slade's center partnership to the concept of the co-captaincy and how that could possibly evolve in the future.